Господь сила моя и песнь, Он соделался моим спасением. Голос радости и спасения в жилищах праведников. Десница Господня творит силу. Десница Господня высока. Десница Господня творит силу. Не умру, но буду жить и возвещать дела Господни. Строго наказал меня Господь, но смерти не предал.
Welcome to News Center 6 at 6. I'm Mike Donahue.
And I'm Shirley Hancock. A flying lesson on a cloudless summer day ends in death today when a plane slams into a Vancouver business park. The silver single-engine plane left Evergreen Airport in East Vancouver at 11:20. Minutes later, and less than a mile away, it plummeted into the Stone Mill Drive Business Park, injuring 2 people in the building and a passenger, and killing the pilot, 26-year-old Oleg Perchakin of Vancouver. Let's take you now to the scene of the crash, where Craig Cheatham is standing by. Craig, you've been out there all day. Did witnesses say there was any warning?
Well, they talked about the fact that the plane was apparently moving very slowly, Shirley. It was coming west after just taking off from Evergreen Airport. You can hear a plane taking off right now. The airport is, say a half mile due east rather. Now, one of the things that they talked about repeatedly is the plane was flying very low, just above the building that you see here. It banked sharp to the left, which is going over the building. The wing scraped off the top, and the plane plowed into the bottom of the building there. There was no sound of a sputtering engine, no smoke from the engine, no flames, nothing, until the plane nosedived into the building. Firefighters say the situation could have been much worse. If the plane had crashed just a couple of feet over the top of the building, for example, it would have easily torn through the roof and erupted into flames inside the building. There could have been many deaths. Witnesses described watching the plane during a lunch break outside, and it was a sight they will never forget.
I was going real slow, and I was going kind of like I was going towards the airport, and I saw it go sideways and then go straight down for a nosedive. We heard a crash.
The pilot, 26-year-old Oleg Perchakin, and his passenger, 27-year-old Iliga Krenitsin, were flying buddies. According to friends at Evergreen Airport, the 2 men flew 2 to 3 times a week. Perchakin was a veteran pilot. It's unclear if Krenitsin had his license or not. The plane, a 50-year-old single-engine Cessna 140, completed an annual inspection just a few months ago. We may not know the cause of this accident for weeks, perhaps months, but witnesses over here and at the airport tell us that the plane appeared to be flying fairly well, and apparently the pilot and his buddy, the passenger, had done extensive work on this plane in recent weeks. We're always tinkering around with it, and according to folks, it was running quite well for a 50-year-old plane, a classic. Back to you.
Okay, thank you for that update. Craig Cheatham reporting live from Vancouver.
Tried to return and then crashed into the Stone Mill Business Park. All of the eyewitnesses that we spoke with said that the engines were off. One man who is a pilot said the plane appeared to be going too slow and stalled.
Oleg Vercheka and his passenger, 27-year-old Iliga Krenitsin. They were apparently flying buddies who flew 2 to 3 times a week.
Flying in the same plane Thursday, just last Thursday, so I mean, as I said, it could be me.
They took off and they had some power failure of some kind to reduce power. Apparently they tried to turn back to the airport and obviously didn't make it.
The plane crashed into the back of an industrial plant. 2 workers at that business, which is called Control Tech Incorporated, were hurt. 1 man inhaled fumes and a woman was hit by falling debris.
The ground. You'll get the details on a bizarre plane crash in Vancouver.
Our area, the second in 1 week. Today, a single-engine Cessna went down in Vancouver. The pilot died, and 1 other man suffered serious injuries when the plane slammed into an office complex.
It was scary. It stopped my heart. As soon as I heard the crash, my heart stopped.
Several people heard it. They were at the Stone Mill Business Park when the plane crashed into a building just before noon.
I heard the engine shut off, and then about 10 seconds later, I just hear the smack into the ground.
The Cessna 140 had just taken off and was apparently trying to turn around and go back to Evergreen Airfield. The first people on the scene The passenger was seriously injured.
Another guy put his hand on his head and said a prayer, and he shook a little bit, and then after that, I think he didn't make it.
The pilot died shortly after the crash. Paramedics pulled the passenger out and rushed him by life flight to Emmanuel Hospital. 2 people on the ground suffered minor injuries. As for a cause, witnesses seem to agree the engines were off when it crashed. Experts will now determine if it was pilot error or mechanical failure.
The plane was going very slowly over. It was making no noise at all. It came down it was going like sideways, and then it came down for a nosedive and hit the building.
I used to fly, so I know what, I think he stalled it. I think it was coming in downwind and stalled it. That's all I can say.
The man who died is 26-year-old Oleg Perchatkin from Vancouver. The other man, 27-year-old Oleg Krynitsin, is from Portland, and again, he is in critical condition tonight.
Report at 136 in Mill Plain. As Ken Cole reports tonight from our Southwest Washington Bureau, witnesses say the plane's engine died just seconds before it hit.
Thank you. A home video camera captures the scene just minutes after the small Cessna 140 clipped the roof of the Stone Mill Business Park. Construction workers on the job next door tried frantically to help retrieve 2 pilots trapped inside the burning wreckage.
Several of us was trying to hold the tail section up, and some guys were trying to hold the wing section up so that they could try to get the guys out of there.
It was very scary. There was flames everywhere. Extinguishers were going, and they lifted it up enough for you could see his head, and he was bleeding, and he was yelling for help.
Witnesses say the plane had just taken off from the Evergreen Airport, a quarter-mile east of the crash site. Those on the ground say the plane's engine died only seconds before it flipped in the air and dropped out of the sky.
I knew it was going to crash. It was inevitable for it to crash. I mean, coming down so low, not having the engines running and seeing it go sideways, real scary.
I was standing out in the front yard, and I heard this coughing and spitting, and looked up, and here's a plane making this turn, and then the engine just quit.
1 man died at the scene. Medical crews worked for several minutes to try and stabilize the second man before he was taken by life flight helicopter to Portland's Legacy Emmanuel Hospital. The Cessna 140, similar to this one, had just passed its annual inspection 2 months ago. The pilots were apparently in the process of restoring the 50-year-old plane. Witnesses say the crash was an ugly scene they won't forget.
And then seeing it do the nosedive. You'd never want to see it, trust me. It scared me.
We jumped up, and it almost made my heart stop.
A heart-stopping crash that will have investigators scrambling to figure out exactly what went wrong. In Vancouver, Ken Cole, Channel 2 News.
The 2 men inside the plane were private pilots and not affiliated with the Evergreen Airport or the flight school. Their names have not been released tonight. 2 other people on the ground were also injured. 1 inhaled smoke. The other was apparently struck by falling debris from the crash.
Could they make a picture? Gee, I don't even know that answer because I think it's okay. Well, I don't know legally that it's okay though. Sir.
Что ты говоришь, Илюх?
Какой-то прикол стоит.